But I think that normalizing these things, normalizing the human condition, and even for people that we tend to idealize, and also we project this like kind of perfection we would like so much like to find in someone or maybe in ourselves. We need to let go of this idea. We need to normalize the human condition as being imperfect, as it's fine to make mistakes. It happens to everyone all the time.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Magali. How are you, Magali?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Very nice. So Magali is a transformation catalyst and a healer. So we're gonna have a very interesting conversation with her today. So first of all, what is your journey in life?
My journey in life, it's a bit complicated. I didn't have a very straightforward journey. I'd say maybe I had like several lives. But I think it really gave me the experiences I needed to become a transformation catalyst, because I went through many transformations. So it started, I was a neurodivergent child. So I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
I'm not sure.
It's becoming more mainstream, but I see many people still not knowing what it means. But we use that term as like an umbrella for people who are cognitively differently wired, so to say, so who have different nervous systems than most people, who we call neurotypical. And so another word for neurodivergent is also neuroatypical. So everyone who is like in the autistic spectrum, ADHD, hypersensitive people, highly gifted people, all these things we pack in that term.
Okay.
Which I find is also a more empowering description, because atypical or divergent just means, okay, so you just, most people are like this and you're not like this. And it takes away the like, is it like a disorder, a disability, or like there's something wrong with you? No, you're just, okay, most people are like this and you're not like most people.
That's fine, right?
Yeah, I think it's more empowering to see it in that way. But
sure.
As a child, actually, because I was perceiving and interpreting things differently because of my nervous system, I received a lot of feedback from people saying, no, it's not like this, and you're wrong. And like, I actually developed unconsciously the belief that there was something wrong with me because of this constant mirroring. And also because all systems and structure in society are made for neurotypical people. So even in the way things work, it's just not it doesn't make sense to you most of the time. But it's not visible. Like, let's say someone in a wheelchair would notice, okay, society is built for people who can walk. It's very unpractical for me in my wheelchair, because there are so few places who have access for people like me.
Yeah.
Right? So it would be very obvious. But when it's something invisible, like with neuroatypical people, it's also the same mirroring. There must be something wrong with me, because everyone can use this in that way and it seems fine and I can't.
All right.
So it was a life process to uncover this and realize, oh wow, actually, it's for me to own my truth and take a stand for it, because the things that don't work well for neuroatypical people, we are starting to notice now that we are making more studies, for example, about autistic children, their needs, the environment they need, that neurotypical people also feel better in environments that are designed for autistic children.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
Exactly. And that a lot of the things that neurotypical people experience as normal and it's not bothering them is also not like optimal for them. And so to understand that actually neuroatypical people, if they empower themselves to actually adjust society in ways that is better for them, is going to make it better for everyone else.
Wow, that's very inspirational indeed. So That's what you're saying. So basically, neuroatypical people can help drive the change that might also benefit everybody and society at large, not just themselves.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And you were so growing up with these challenges.
Yeah.
And
so I ended up, because I internalized this belief, there was something wrong with me. I had very difficult relationship with my parents. I started very early, you know, to like take drugs, to take risks, to do all kinds of things that were very self-destructive. And I was also like a gothic teenager, you know, all dressed in black and like hanging out in very dark places. I mean, it's still part of my identity because I love the music and the culture behind it, and I still love it. And I also, you know, found a sense of belonging in that kind of culture where all the other misfits and people that don't fit in could be with each other.
Okay.
And I mean, in the Gothic culture, for example, everything queer, like people who are gender fluid or that kind of, we had it since a long time. We were not like labeling it, but we always had like guys coming up dressed with skirts and girls who are more like butch, and like, you know, like these things were just normal for us. So that's interesting. It's becoming more mainstream and accepted, but in these dark caves, everyone that was not fitting in the daylight could find each other and get this sense of acceptance and belonging.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so as a teenager, you went through all the hanging out with the Gothics, the music, the culture. And I mean, how did you decide to become a catalyst for change and also a therapist?
Yes, so that happened a little bit later. I actually met someone when I was 26 who happened to be a narcissistic person, and I had a relationship with him, and I was not aware, like I was not, in the time we had no information about that. I don't think the label was out yet. And I was also very, maybe naive, but it didn't cross my mind that someone could manipulate me. I always tend to trust people and give them the best intentions, you know, and interpret things through that lens. And also, you know, these people at first they do this period of what they call love bombing. So they give you actually a lot of love and appreciation, and so of course you think they want the best for you because they have made you believe they think so highly of you. So when they start to criticize you, which is the second part of the process, you think, okay, yes. And usually they like people who are very accepting of like looking at themselves and like, oh yeah, I hear your critique, I'm gonna take a look, you know, and try to own my part in what is happening. But then it's become more and more insidious, and then slowly it starts to erode your self-worth, because this person who was thinking so highly of you start to criticize more and more and more, and like using this gaslighting technique. I don't know if you heard about it.
Gaslighting?
It's a form of manipulation. The term comes from a Hitchcock movie called Rebecca.
Okay.
Where it's a couple, newlywed couple, and they move into a house, and the husband actually organizes events in the house where, for example, someone is walking under the roof and she's hearing sound, and she tells her husband, for example, at the end of the day, oh my God, I think someone came in the house, I'm so scared. And so the husband at first takes it like, oh, really? I wonder what's going on. And then he makes research, or pretends to, because he actually is the one organizing things in the house to make her believe that she's becoming crazy.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, at first he's like, oh yes, I'm going to check. And then he becomes more and more concerned, like, I don't know what's happening with you, my dear. Like, I feel like you're losing your senses. Maybe we should see a therapist. And you know, it gets at her because, of course, she trusts him. And she starts to think, I cannot trust my own perception.
Wow, and something like this happened to you as well?
That's very common actually for narcissistic people to use that manipulation technique that makes you doubt more and more of your own perception, because the point is that you delegate your authority to them because you realize I cannot trust myself anymore.
Okay, that's very unhealthy. Eh? And so this experience of like dating this narcissist, I mean, what triggered in you?
So yes, exactly. That was the beginning of my healing journey, because it got so deep inside of me that I became even physically ill. After I left him, actually. And I realized only after I left him, all the manipulation and everything, I became physically ill. And I went from doctors to doctors because they didn't seem to know what was going on with me or to be able to help. And that's when, after a while of this quest, and like being bounced around by doctors, that I started to look at alternative forms of healing.
Oh, okay. And that's how you go into your
exactly. But even
energy
there,
work and
I went from session to session, and I thought somehow I had the belief maybe someday someone will heal me in one of these sessions. Because I, think about the process, holistic processes. And it was a journey in itself also to understand, oh, no, actually I have to take responsibility for my healing.
Yeah.
But it was preparing me to become a healer, to go through all these lessons and learnings and understandings also how, is healing happening on all levels, because they are not separated. You want to heal your body, you have to heal your emotions, you have to heal your soul, your spirit also. And that you cannot separate them.
Yeah, I totally agree indeed, yes. It is a journey, it is a process, and the healer or therapist role is the one to hold the space, to provide some structure, some help, but then it is very much a personal journey to a better life, to more well-being. And okay, so that's fascinating, your background already, I didn't know. And I know, of course, you told me that there is something that you like to change in people as well as society, like some systemic change or paradigm change that you're trying to catalyze. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Exactly. So to come back to what I was explaining about neurodivergence.
Yes.
I really believe that people who have been marginalized in the paradigm we are still in are actually, for the exact same reasons they've been marginalized, carrying the seeds of the new paradigm, and will be the leaders. They will be showing the way into the new paradigm.
Okay, sounds good.
So not only neurodivergent people, but I believe people who have not been able to fit in the previous or still existing paradigm is not because there was something wrong with them, it's because they were meant to bring the new one.
Yes.
And my work is very much about empowering these people so that they can transmute these things they think are embarrassing or inadequate or not good enough in them into their gifts as leaders,
It's a very beautiful concept. I really like the way you explain it as well. In Copenhagen, we have a community which, to some standards at least, cannot really be considered mainstream in a way. So many people here have a different view of the world. They have maybe different value system. I mean, it's not, there's of course a range or a continuum, of different belief systems, etc. And we all coexist within the current system as well, but indeed many people that decide to live, for instance, I was living in London, working in the corporate world, etc. And I decided to come and live in nature instead, with very creative people. So I think what you're saying would resonate with many people who decided to come to live in Copenhagen, or at least people that are taking a break from the life they had before, and they're here on a healing journey, because indeed there are many things about the current system or paradigm that is not really serving people. Is that right?
I mean, if we look at it, most systems we are living in and or under, are they really designed to support human needs? What is the intention for them? What are they there to serve? What is the purpose of them? Are they here so that everyone is having maximal happiness?
Probably
Right?
not.
We know that most of the systems have been actually designed to serve the interest of very few people who are profiting from exploiting other people and resources.
I suppose, yes, society is built as a little bit as a pyramid historically, and it's difficult to change that. And every time people try to change it, the pyramid forms itself again with a new elite, if you want. But the elite is still there, isn't it? Like historically, I think the challenge indeed would be to have a society which is more sort of, more inclusive.
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe more working for the wealth of everybody and the health of everybody, particularly, I'll say, so that, for instance, the junk food industry, to start with, is something that is close to my heart. I mean, sometimes I think, why they come up with these really highly processed breakfast cereals for children. I mean, these things contain very little vitamins and minerals. They are very toxic in many ways, like 10, 15 ingredients. They put all sorts of sugar and salt and preservatives in them. And I say, I mean, is the child health in mind when they're producing these things? Or is more like a way to get the kid addicted to these things so that they can keep on buying them again? I mean, it's difficult.
Yes. And it's the same, for example, with movies, video games for children. I mean, by now, it's not even a secret that there are engineers that are paid to make them more and more addictive. It's out there. It's not even a secret. And you just need to talk with the child for a little bit about these things to understand that there's something really wrong there. Because I tell my child, when we are in the grocery store, of course he wants to buy the cereal with the nicest package, with the most efficient marketing to a child's mind. This one looks the coolest, I want that. And so I explain why we don't want this, but we want the one with the boring package.
Yeah, because it's more
it's not
natural.
about the packaging. And then, he starts to ask questions that are very natural, like, but why would they put something that is not good for the health in a food store?
Yeah, because ultimately the profit is what drives these decisions. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with the way that many things are done. If you really look at them, just because we are brought up with them, and maybe many people don't question them, you just are used to them in a way or another,
Completely.
You're used to many things, even the concept of working hard and working harder and even harder, and working 12 hours and then 14 hours, all this culture towards, I call it the culture of busy, where being busy means being high status. So in a work context, the person that stays the longest in the office, receives the biggest rewards, even if the quality of the work maybe is not as good as somebody that might be work only 6 hours a day, but puts in lots of creativity, for instance. But there is a culture around being busy and working hard and working harder and harder all the time. That's also maybe doesn't serve most of the individuals, right?
But we see also this epidemic of burnouts.
Indeed.
And even when the system is working for people like you who are, they achieve all the things that we are being told to believe, hey, that's how you have a successful life. Okay, I had the good job, I had the money, I maybe even have the family and the house and the dog and the car, I don't know, and then I'm still not really happy, and then you leave to go on an island.
Sure, not very
looking
happy.
for yourself, your true self.
Or
because
sick
you notice,
as well, yeah.
No, that's not the point. And some people get lost into the okay, I just need more money, or maybe I just need a rocket made out of gold or a bastard made out of diamond, or they get more and more in but
sure.
If they would get it, they would still notice, no, or maybe I need another planet, If they would get it, they will still not be satisfied, because it's looking the other direction, not outwards, but inwards.
I totally know what you mean, and I think there is an innate sort of tendency for human beings to wanting more, but the growth doesn't have to be only material, because that's very disruptive and very unhealthy in the long run. So as you said, we need to have material expansion matched with spiritual growth and inner expansion at the same time.
Yes, that's why the people I work with, they usually sense they have something to bring in the world, so this outer aspect, but they are missing the inner pieces to manifest that. And, I realize with the skills and the gifts I have, it's probably the way I can influence most the state of the world is by helping people who carry this already to be able to manifest this.
I really like your approach. I also believe that collective change starts from the individual, and that by healing the individual self, then we can really have an impact on society and the community first, so the family, the community, and then outer society as well. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful concept. I really like it indeed. And there's we were having an interview with a guy just recently called Bill. He actually mentioned to me that John Lennon had all sorts of challenges at home in terms of being angry, almost abusive,
yes,
was being such a symbol for peace, change, and this sort of split between what you are inside and the image you give. I mean, without taking anything away from John Lennon for what he did in terms of moving society on certain subjects, definitely. Maybe through his journey of trying to change himself, then he was able later in life to come up with a beautiful message that he brought to the world. Mm. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, I believe that we are like, as long as we are not whole, and I don't know if it's possible in this lifetime to become completely whole, but we are fragmented. We have different parts that react differently, that are triggered in different situations. And sometimes, when, I don't know if it was the case for John Lennon, but what I'm sensing is maybe it was also kind of receiving informations from his higher self, or from a higher perspective that he was giving through his creation, sharing through his creations, or maybe his messages he was giving to people. And that was maybe the best part of himself, the one that is connected to higher wisdom.
Yeah.
And then in the privacy with the people who are closest to us, like our partners and our children, that's where, the parts who are still carrying deep, deep wounds are triggered the most, and where we show the worst of ourselves. And as a parent, I can tell you that children are gonna press all your buttons. So great way to make progress, but also it's very bumpy. And also, you have to be willing to take responsibility for your wounds, for your triggers. And often in relationships, it's starting to change as we are entering a new paradigm, but we are very used to project our suffering and to blame the people we love the most for the way we feel.
Sure.
So it's a learning process, and but I think that normalizing these things, normalizing the human condition, and even for people that we tend to idolize, and also we project this kind of perfection we would so much to find in someone, or maybe in ourselves. We need to let go of this idea. We need to normalize the human condition as being imperfect, as it's fine to make mistakes. It happens to everyone all the time. And it's more about, what is my relationship to making mistakes? What do I do when it happens? Am I able to take responsibility for it, to make it a learning experience, to grow from it? Or am I too ashamed and then I try to blame others, or to avoid, or to go away, So it's same, not about I want to perfect myself, but I want to be more accepting of the human condition. Is for me the true healing process.
I really like it. I also think we are multifaceted individuals, complex psychologies, And it's impossible to be perfect according to some sort of biblical ideal of perfection that it really doesn't exist. And all we can do indeed is to try to make our wounding, our traumas more visible to us to start with, and then work with them. The shadow aspect, that is also very big in Copenhagen in terms of people doing shadow work, etc. Mm-hmm. That's very, very fascinating and interesting indeed. And sometimes it feels, even if you want to be calm and connect and relaxed all the time, there's a compulsion or impulse coming through. Almost doesn't feel like yourself, right? But this is part of us too. And even the most enlightened people, as you see many spiritual teachers, etc., recently particularly they've been blamed for something they did or, supposedly did. And possibly it's true, because indeed we are these kind of complex individuals, and nothing is 100% good or bad, light or darkness. Exactly. It's always a mix of the two. But recognizing that and moving beyond it, is that what you are trying to do with your clients? Is that right?
Yes, I'm helping them to integrate, to be more whole, and to transmute, these things that they are judging as maybe shameful or annoying, or like I should be better, into what is actually to recognize it as a gift and as what makes them unique, because that's where is the seed for this like freedom of full expression. What I was saying, we are here for, to express that. And I see that as a path of freedom and empowerment and integrity, and ultimately, satisfaction, love, happiness.
More well-being for everybody.
Exactly.
It sounds great. It's a very good message, and I really like it. Let's move on to the energy aspect of your work. So you said that you use energy healing with your clients as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I started, I trained in shiatsu at first for 4 years. And in shiatsu, you use the same meridians than in the traditional Chinese medicine, so that they use also in the acupuncture. And so these meridians are like canals for energy, and they are connected to different functions in the body, but also in the spirit. Each meridian corresponds to an organ, which is also responsible for certain types of emotions, for certain bodily functions, and so on. And I mean, shiatsu is also like a way of, how do you relate to the world? It's also has its own philosophy and everything, which I find also very beautiful, because just the way you are presencing with your clients is already setting a container for healing, because, in the Western healing, there's a lot of like, there are symptoms, this is wrong, we need to make this go away, and there's a lot of like striving for a result, and pushing through sometimes very aggressive chemicals or interventions in the body. And the approach in shiatsu and in other holistic ways of healing is that acceptance is the basis of healing, because energy always go towards healing. And the only reasons we are sick or we don't manage to heal is because we are usually unconsciously blocking the energy. So it is either stagnating or it is hold as potential, but is not flowing within the system as it should. And when you, so in shiatsu you also touch people, and this touch should communicate this acceptance. For example, maybe in some massage you felt someone being like, oh, there's a knot here and I'm trying to make it go away by my touch. And for me, I have a very strong reaction to that. It's not what I need, and it only makes things worse. And the touch needs to communicate, this is okay, you are okay as you are, and I have no expectations from you. And this same attitude you can not only express through touch, but in the way you talk with people, in the way you are with people, in the way you are guiding people into becoming more aware of themselves, into seeing themselves, and into seeing what they need for their healing. So after I trained in shiatsu, I did many other trainings like somatic experiencing, which is a way to integrate trauma. I was very curious about all these trauma questions, so I was doing my own research, and then I came into realizing, some traumas, like this approach doesn't work with some traumas, which we call developmental trauma.
Developmental, yeah.
So maybe some people don't know what it is, but a shock trauma is, for example, you had a terrible experience, and we all had this, and it's really hard to cope with it, so it stays in your body for a while and you need time to recover fully from it. But developmental trauma is something that starts in childhood and sometimes already in the womb of the mother, and already there we can have experiences where our needs are not being met.
Yeah.
And so it will impair our development, which is why it's called like this.
Yeah.
And for this, we cannot work in the same way. We cannot have the same approach of healing. And these are like really the deepest traumas and like the most difficult to access, because it starts so early as well. All your journey builds up on that, and you create more and more layers of coping mechanisms on this. So you need to uncover, and I know because it was my own journey, and so all of my healing is based on what I've experienced in myself. Like, I don't use things that I've read in a book and I haven't tried on myself.
Yeah, that's the naturopathic holistic way, is to try on yourself first.
Because true knowledge is also to know what it feels like inside of yourself, not just a concept that you know. Sure. My approach developed upon my own healing journey, my quest and my research for myself. Mm-hmm. And then once I started to work with clients, also noticing the places where maybe, why can't I help this person there? Why is she not reacting like I would expect? And continue, to get supervision and to continue to research, to uncover, and understand more and more deeply. And so at some point, because I studied so many different things, but I also trust more and more of my intuition, it just became my own way of healing. And like I say, nowadays I can use, it doesn't matter so much if I use touch or talk or presencing or guiding in the results. It's more about, I'm trying to see which of these way is the best way to reach that person right now.
Okay. Yep.
Is this person needing words right now? Because the mind is so active. And if I try to touch them, the mind maybe will become even more active because it needs answers, it wants to grasp onto things, so I need to work with the mind first.
Yeah.
Or is this person, in the contrary, something is so beyond words that it's only something that can be felt, and that in the moment we need to go into the body and feel what's happening there.
Yeah.
And then it's also about connecting all these things,
That's great. I feel like
sensations, emotions, thoughts.
I feel like I want to work with you,
No, because you probably know this as well. Like the deepest level of healing is when you go through all the levels.
Sure. It's we are complex individuals, many layers, many aspects of us, and many approaches that go and find the problem or just bring us up and make us more conscious in a way. Make, as you said, the meridians work well so that we can move the energy and use the energy for healing. But also, some people love talking therapy, for instance, and making sense of the world.
Yes. And it's important to make sense.
Sure. Absolutely. And the psychology of the individual is extremely important. So that our emotions, our thoughts, the way we label things for ourselves, everything contributes in a holistic system to well-being and wellness.
Yes.
And and then some people have more of a physical approach to start with, some people more of a talking therapy, some people is more of a holistic healing approach with energy, for instance. And I really like the fact that you say that you can use all of them in a way, depending on the person you're working with. Because that's not so easy, Sometimes you have your therapy, you want to go there, but you just stop, see the person, and then try and see.
And it's the person in that moment, because even the same person on another day needs something different. And that's why it's so important to be like so present, is also for people already starts to feel healing when someone is really present with them and with their pain and really accepting of it. Because, you know, to be honest, how many times we try to share our pain with someone and they try to advise us, you know, to make the situation better, like all good intentions, but the difference when someone is like, wow, oh my God, like this sounds so painful and I cannot imagine what you're going through, and like just being there with us with the pain, that's where we really experience relief.
Awesome. So tell us about your Copenhagen plans. First of all, why did you end up in Copenhagen, and what are you going to do here?
Wow. Okay, I'm also going to try to make a long story short. So one of the main reasons I came here is because my child was not feeling well since some months, and you know, it's my job to help people feel better. So I have lots of tools, but of course it's always different when it's your child. And how children also sometimes, in a way, they want to receive the help, but they're also blocking it on some level. And but I also have other resources because I have many colleagues, you know, that I can ask for support with my child. So this is what I did, and it got a little bit better, but really is going through a huge crisis. And it's, for a mother's heart, it's really painful to see your child suffer like this. And at some point I came to the conclusion, also because I had other indicators, that maybe also the environment we were living in Berlin, Germany, after 2 years of very strict COVID regulations that for the children were, I think, completely, like the consequences were completely underestimated. What it does to a child's psychology to see people with face covered, not being able to read expressions, being tested all the time for something that in the child psychology is not tangible, and it just creates an atmosphere of, you know, something's dangerous, but I cannot even feel it. I think it creates a lot of anxiety. On top of being very sensitive beings, they also feel like the anxiety of the adults around them.
For sure.
And as much as I have had a love relationship with Berlin, for me it was also hard after 2 years to be deprived of the things, the reason why I love Berlin, you know, the amazing people that are here, the amazing events when we gather, you know, like all these gatherings were just not happening anymore. And if you take that away, Berlin is not super pretty city.
It's not. I've been to Munich. It's a lot prettier than Berlin.
I've been living in Paris, so.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
But it has a different charm, and then it was not really accessible anymore, and it was more, you know, the shadow aspect of the German mind, like rules and forbidden and fleished, which is duty and protocols, and this all German rigidity was very accentuated. As an Italian person, you know, you also probably can feel what I'm talking about. And so, I just decided, okay, let's try something different, and open the door to come here. Because of, you know, okay, living in a more natural environment with people who are more free-spirited, who have different values, who are more laid back, who are not rigid at all.
Yeah, Freedom Island.
It's like the other
the other spectrum, yeah.
But I thought, you know, maybe that could help him to relax again, find himself again, and so.
Well, it sounds very good. Very interesting talking to you. Thank you very much for this little chat. Yes, and very good luck in Copenhagen. And I hope that you also find a way to share your gifts here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I was also really delighted to meet you. And if anyone resonates with what I say, it's also like, please reach out, because I would also love to, you know, maybe start a community. Maybe first by thinking about what we want, but who knows what it can evolve into.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.